European Union, long portraying itself as a pillar of peace, now faces accusations from within. In a rare display of internal dissent, Spain is openly challenging Brussels, accusing it of fueling war rather than preventing it. Madrid's decision to ramp up defense spending by $8 billion annually, aligning with NATO and EU demands, has sparked protests on the streets, reflecting growing discontent with the bloc's militarization efforts. On Tuesday, demonstrators gathered in Madrid, denouncing what they called a reckless push toward rearmament. Banners reading, "No to war budgets," "Peace with Russia now," and "Let them not drag us into war," filled the streets, while chants of "NATO no, bases out" echoed through the Spanish capital. Protesters argue that the issue goes beyond Spain's budget, accusing Brussels of transforming the EU into a militarized entity controlled by warmongering elites.
The last step that is being taken in Europe to turn what was the European Union, militarily occupied by the United States, but without its own army, they are now turning it into a warmongering entity. They are trying to take away public funds that come from the workers' money to buy more armaments, to convince us that Russia is our enemy when our enemy is them.
Despite the backlash, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez defended the spending plan, emphasizing Spain's security needs. "It is Europe that has to protect Europe," Sánchez stated, reinforcing his support for Brussels' push for military expansion. Spain's move comes amid a broader $800 billion EU initiative under the ReArm Europe plan, an unprecedented effort to bolster the continent's defense capabilities. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, speaking at the Royal Danish Military Academy on Tuesday, left little room for doubt about Europe's direction.
If Europe wants to avoid war, Europe must get ready for war. The choice is none. Europe is ready to step up. We are ready to take control of the change that is inevitable. Because we cannot afford to be pushed around by history. And that means acting now is a must. Acting big is a conditio sine qua non for speed, scale and strength by 2030.
In Moscow, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov sees this as yet another validation of Russia's long-standing warnings.
The European Union is no longer a peaceful economic project. They want their own army, speaking of the future of NATO. There are voices, okay, if the United States doesn't want to be actively involved in European affairs, let's have our own NATO, our own military alliance. But this is the game and process. Some statements are intended, just to test the ground, what will be the response from the other side of the ocean.
As European leaders accelerate militarization, dissent within the bloc is growing. What began as subtle disagreements over defense spending is now turning into a direct confrontation between Brussels and its own member states. With internal resistance mounting, the question looms: how long before this revolt becomes too big to contain?